Hi, welcome to my channel and my dear viewers. Have you ever wondered why some people succeed in life while others keep struggling even after working hard? Why do some dreams come true and others remain just dreams? Today I am going to tell you a powerful story that will completely change the way you think about success, money, and hard work. This story is called Nothing is Free, and it will show you a truth that many people realize very late in life. Nothing in this world comes without effort. Not success, not happiness, not even small achievements. If you are ready to understand how real success is built step by step, then stay with me until the end. Because this story is not just about one person. It is about every person who has a dream but doesn't know the real price behind it. Let's begin this journey together and discover the truth. Chapter 1. There was a young man named Leo who was just 20 years old, living in a small, quiet town surrounded by mountains and simple houses. Life in his town was slow, and most people followed the same routine every day, waking up early, working hard, and sleeping with tired minds. Leo was different in one way. He was always thinking about something bigger than his surroundings. He had dreams that were larger than the mountains around him. He wanted to become a successful entrepreneur and own a chain of restaurants in different cities. He wanted people to know his name, not clear's throat, just in his town, but in the whole country. But deep inside, he also knew that dreams like his were not easy to achieve, especially when you have very little support and very few resources. Leo belonged to a poor family. His father, Mark, was a hard-working mechanic who spent long hours fixing cars in a small garage. His hands were always covered in oil, and his body was always tired, but he never complained. His mother, Claire, worked in different houses cleaning and cooking to help the family survive. She would leave early in the morning and return late at night, carrying exhaustion in her eyes, but still managing a soft smile for her children. Leo also had a younger sister named Sophie, who was only 10 years old. She admired Leo deeply and believed he could achieve anything in life. For her, Leo was not just a brother, he was a hero. Even though Leo loved his family, he often felt pressure inside his heart. He saw how hard his parents worked every single day just to pay for food, rent, and basic needs. Sometimes he would quietly sit in his small room and think about how unfair life felt. He had big dreams but no money to start, no proper guidance, and no clear path. At night, when the world became silent, Leo would sit outside his house and look at the sky full of stars. The sky always made him think deeply. He would whisper to himself, "Will I always live like this? Or is there a way out?" Sometimes he felt motivated, and sometimes he felt completely lost. But even in his confusion, one thing remained strong in his heart, and that was his desire to change his life. One cold evening, Leo sat outside again, watching the stars. The wind was soft and the night was peaceful, but his thoughts were heavy. He thought about his parents and their struggles. He thought about his sister and her dreams. Then he quietly said to himself, I want to give my family a better life. But how do I start when we barely have enough to survive today? This question stayed in his mind for a long time. It was not just a question. It was a pain he could not ignore. He wanted answers, but there was no one to guide him. The next morning, Leo decided to talk to his father. He gathered courage and told him about his dreams of becoming successful and starting his own business one day. His father listened carefully without interrupting. After a long silence, Mark sighed deeply and said, "Leo, dreams are not free. If you want something in life, you have to fight for it. Start with what you have, even if it is small. Don't wait for perfect conditions because they never come." These words stayed in Leo's mind like a strong echo. He did not fully understand them at first, but he knew his father was right about one thing. Life does not give success easily. After this conversation, Leo started observing his surroundings more carefully. He began noticing things he never paid attention to before. He saw how people in his town had limited options for food. He noticed that many people loved fresh bakery items, but the nearest bakery was far away, and not everyone could travel daily. This small observation slowly planted an idea in his mind, but he was not sure yet how to use it. He had no experience in business, no money, and no connections. Still, something inside him started to wake up. It was the beginning of a thought that would later change his entire life. However, Leo was still afraid. He kept asking himself questions like, what if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if I lose everything before even starting? These thoughts often stopped him from taking action, but at the same time, he also remembered his father's words again and again. Start with what you have. Slowly, a small spark of courage began to grow inside him. It was not strong yet, but it was enough to push him toward his next step. By the end of this chapter, Leo was standing at a very important point in his life. He's no longer just a boy with dreams. He is someone who is beginning to think about action. He has seen the problem, he has felt the struggle, and now he is slowly moving toward a decision that could change everything. But the real journey has not started yet. And what comes next will test his courage in ways he has never imagined before. Chapter 2. After his deep conversation with his father, Leo could not sleep peacefully that night. His mind kept repeating the same words again and again. Dreams are not free. These words felt heavy, but at the same time, they felt true. He kept thinking about what his father really meant. Was he trying to discourage him? Or was he trying to prepare him for reality? Leo did not know the answer yet, but one thing was clear. If he truly wanted to change his life, he could not stay the same. Something inside him needed to change first. His thinking, his attitude, and his courage. The next morning, Leo woke up earlier than usual. Instead of wasting time thinking, he decided to observe his town carefully. He walked through the streets slowly, watching people, shops, and daily life activities. For the first time, he was not just walking. He was analyzing. He noticed how people lined up at small food stalls every morning. He saw how busy some shops were while others stayed empty. He began to ask himself questions like, why do people prefer one shop over another? Why do some businesses succeed while others fail even in the same town? As he walked further, he realized something important. Most people in his town had a similar problem. They loved fresh bakery items like bread, cakes, and pastries, but the nearest proper bakery was far away from their homes. Traveling there daily was not easy for everyone, especially for old people and busy workers. Many people either skipped fresh bakery food or bought low-quality items from small local shops. This simple observation slowly sparked an idea in Leo's mind, but he did not fully understand it yet. It was just a small thought, like a seed waiting to grow. When Leo returned home, he sat quietly in his room and started thinking deeply. He asked himself, what if I could bring fresh bread to people in my own town? What if I could solve this small problem? But immediately after this thought, fear entered his mind. He had no money. He had no experience. He had no knowledge of business. And most importantly, he had no guarantee that anyone would trust him. The idea sounded good in his head, but reality felt completely different. For the next few days, Leo kept struggling between fear and hope. Sometimes he felt excited about his idea, and sometimes he felt like it was impossible. He would lie on his bed and imagine success, but then he would quickly come back to reality when he remembered his financial condition. Clear's throat. He even thought about giving up before starting, but every time he tried to ignore the idea, it kept coming back stronger. One evening, while sitting with his father in the small garage, Leo decided to open up again. He told his father about what he had observed in the town and the idea he was thinking about. Mark listened carefully without interrupting. After hearing everything, he remained silent for a few seconds. Then he slowly said, Leo, ideas are important, but action is more important. Many people have ideas, but only a few act on them. If you are serious, you must be ready to struggle. These words once again hit Leo deeply. He realized that thinking alone was not enough. But at the same time, he also understood that action without preparation could also lead to failure. He needed a way to take the first step carefully. That night, Leo could not stop thinking. He kept turning the idea in his mind again and again, trying to find a starting point. Finally, after days of thinking, Leo made a decision. He would try to connect with a bakery and see if he could sell their products in his town. It was a small idea, but it felt like a possible beginning. However, there was still a big problem. He had no money to buy products in advance. This meant he needed someone to trust him, someone who would give him products without payment up front. This sounded almost impossible for a beginner like him. Despite all the doubts, Leo decided to take a risk. He told himself, if I wait for perfect conditions, I will never start. I must try with whatever I have. This moment was very important in his journey because it marked the shift from thinking to action. He was no longer just dreaming. He was preparing to take his first real step into the world of business. By the end of this chapter, Leo was standing at the edge of uncertainty. He had an idea. He had motivation, but he still lacked trust from others and confidence in himself. The next step would require courage, communication, and confidence. And very soon, Leo would face the first real challenge that would test whether he truly had what it takes to change his life or not. Chapter 3. Leo's decision was simple in his mind, but very difficult in reality. He wanted to approach a bakery owner and ask for support, even though he had no money, no experience, and no guarantee of success. This was the first time he was stepping outside his comfort zone in a serious way. Until now, everything was just thinking and planning. But now, it was about real action, real people, and real risk. His heart was beating fast every time he thought about it, but he knew one thing clearly. If he did not try, nothing in his life would ever change. The bakery he chose was located in a nearby town, far from his home. It was known for its fresh bread and good quality products. People from different areas used to visit that bakery daily. Leo had seen it once during his observation walks, and something about it made him feel that this was the right place to start. However, the bakery owner, Mr. Anderson, was known as a strict and serious man. People said he did not trust strangers easily and rarely agreed to unusual requests. On the day Leo decided to go, he woke up early in the morning. He did not eat much breakfast because his stomach was full of nervousness. He kept practicing in his mind what he would say. He repeated sentences silently, trying to sound confident. But every time he imagined the conversation, he felt a little fear inside him. Still, he did not turn back. He walked for miles toward the bakery, carrying both hope and fear together. When he finally reached the bakery, he stopped for a moment outside the shop. He looked at the signboard, the customers coming in and out, and the busy workers inside. He took a deep breath and reminded himself, "Nothing is free. If I want success, I must face fear." With that thought, he stepped inside. Mr. Anderson was standing behind the counter, carefully observing everything. He looked like a man who had seen many business people come and go. Leo slowly walked toward him and greeted him politely. His voice was slightly shaky at first, but he tried to stay calm. Mr. Anderson looked at him with a serious expression and waited for him to speak. Leo introduced himself and explained his idea. He said he wanted to sell bakery products in his town because there was demand, but people had no easy access. He then made his request carefully. He said, "I don't have money to buy your products up front, but if you give me a chance for 1 week, I will sell them, return your money, and bring you profit." There was silence in the room after Leo finished speaking. Mr. Anderson raised his eyebrow and looked at him carefully. He had heard many people come with promises before, but most of them never returned. He leaned slightly forward and asked, "And why should I trust you, young man? What makes you different from others?" At that moment, Leo felt nervous. His mind went blank for a second, but then he remembered everything he had been thinking for days. He remembered his father's words, his struggles, and his dream. He took a deep breath and replied, "Because I have nothing to lose, but everything to prove. I may not have money or experience, but I have determination. I will not give up easily." Again, silence filled the room. Mr. Anderson studied Leo carefully. He could see something different in the boy's eyes. It was not overconfidence. It was seriousness mixed with hope. After a long pause, he finally said, "All right, I will give you a chance. I will provide you bread for 1 week. But remember, if you fail to return my money, do not come back here again." Leo felt a wave of relief and excitement at the same time. It was not success yet, but it was an opportunity, and for him, that was everything. He thanked Mr. Anderson respectfully and promised he would not break his trust. As he walked out of the bakery, he could not believe what had just happened. His first real step had been accepted. On his way back home, Leo's mind was full of thoughts. He knew this was just the beginning, not the success. Now the real challenge would start. He had to sell the bread, convince customers, and earn profit all within a limited time. There was no room for mistake. If he failed, he would lose not only this opportunity, but also the trust he had just gained. That night, Leo could not sleep properly. He kept thinking about how he would start, where he would sell, and how people would react. He realized something very important during this time. Opportunity alone is not enough. You must know how to use it, and that requires courage, planning, and consistency. By the end of this chapter, Leo had taken his first real step into the world of business. He had crossed the barrier of fear and reached the stage of action. But now, a much bigger challenge was waiting for him. A challenge that would test his patience, his confidence, and his belief in himself. And the next chapter would show whether Leo was ready for it or not. Chapter 4. The next morning felt different for Leo. It was not just another ordinary day anymore. He now had responsibility on his shoulders. He had promised Mr. Anderson that he would sell the bread and return with profit. That promise was not just a sentence. It was a test of his character. Leo woke up before sunrise, even though his body was tired and his mind was still full of nervous thoughts. He kept repeating one thing to himself: "Nothing is free. I must earn every step." He went to the bakery early in the morning to collect the bread. Mr. Anderson handed him the fresh bread without saying much. He simply looked at Leo and said, "Now show me if you can really do what you said." These words felt heavy, but Leo nodded with confidence. He carefully packed the bread and started walking back toward his town. The journey back felt longer than usual because his mind was full of pressure and responsibility. When he reached his town, he started looking for a good place to sell the bread. After thinking carefully, he chose a small spot near a local park where people often passed in the morning and evening. He placed his small stand there and arranged the bread neatly. At that moment, he realized something important. This was the first time he was not just dreaming. He was actually doing something real. As people started walking by, Leo greeted them politely with a smile. He said, "Fresh bread available, warm and delicious." But to his surprise, most people ignored him. Some people looked at him for a second and walked away. Others doubted the quality because they had never seen him before. Leo felt a small pain inside his heart. He started questioning himself. What if no one buys? What if I fail on my first day? For a moment, fear started to grow inside him. Clear's throat. But then he remembered his father's words and his promise to Mr. Anderson. He took a deep breath and told himself that failure in the beginning is normal. Instead of giving up, he decided to try a different approach. He picked up a small piece of bread and offered free samples to people passing by. At first, people were surprised. Some hesitated, but a few accepted the sample. One elderly man tried it and smiled. He said, "This is really fresh and good." That small compliment gave Leo new energy. Slowly, more people started trying the bread. And then, something amazing happened. A few people started buying it. One by one, customers increased. By midday, Leo had already sold a good portion of his bread. He felt a sense of relief and excitement that he had never felt before. It was not a huge success yet, but it was progress. Every sale gave him more confidence. He started talking more comfortably with customers. He started understanding what people liked and what they did not. As the day continued, Leo kept working without rest. He did not sit down for long breaks. He stayed focused on his goal. By evening, he had sold almost all the bread. When he counted the money, he realized he had made a small profit. It was not a big amount, but for him, it felt like a huge achievement. It was his first real income earned through his own effort. That evening, Leo returned to Mr. Anderson's bakery. He walked in with a mix of tiredness and excitement. He placed the money on the counter and said, "I sold everything." Mr. Anderson looked at the money, then at Leo's face. He studied him quietly for a few seconds. Then he nodded and said, "You kept your word. Not many people do that." Those simple words meant a lot to Leo. He felt respected for the first time in a business environment. Mr. Anderson then added, "Come back tomorrow if you want more bread." That moment marked a small but important victory in Leo's journey. On his way home, Leo reflected on the entire day. He realized that success does not come instantly. It comes step by step. First, there is fear, then there is action, then comes struggle, and finally, progress. He also understood something deeper. People do not buy just products. They buy trust, confidence, and communication. That night, Leo felt proud but not satisfied. He knew this was only the beginning. He had proven that he could sell, but now he had to prove that he could grow. He needed a better system, better planning, and more consistency. He started thinking about how he could improve his work and reach more customers in the coming days. By the end of this chapter, Leo had taken his first successful step in business.
Rejection, overcome fear, and earned his first profit. But more importantly, he had started to believe in himself. And that belief was becoming stronger every single day. The journey was still long, and bigger challenges were waiting for him in the next chapter. Chapter Wu. After his first successful day of selling bread, Leo felt a new kind of confidence inside him. It was not loud confidence or overconfidence, but a quiet belief that he could actually do something on his own. For the first time in his life, he had earned money through his own effort. That feeling stayed in his heart like a small flame that kept burning. But Leo also knew that one good day does not change a life. Real success comes from consistency, not one moment of victory. The next morning, Leo woke up even earlier than before. He no longer felt as much fear as he felt on the first day, but he still understood the importance of discipline. He went to Mr. Toucan Anderson's bakery again and collected more bread. Mr. Anderson did not say much, but he observed Leo carefully. He could see that the boy was serious about his work. This time, there was a small sense of trust in his eyes. Even if he did not express it clearly, Leo returned to his selling spot near the park and set up his small stand again. This time, things were slightly better. A few people recognized him from the previous day. Some even came directly and asked for bread without hesitation. This gave Leo a strong boost of motivation. He started the day with more energy, greeting people with a brighter smile and more confidence in his voice. However, as the day progressed, Leo realized something important. Even though he had started building a small customer base, his sales were still limited. He was selling only a small quantity because his setup was basic and his reach was limited. He began to understand that effort alone was not enough. Strategy was also important. He needed a better system if he wanted to grow further. During the afternoon, while sitting for a short break, Leo started observing other small businesses around him. He noticed that some vendors had better locations, some had attractive displays, and some had regular customers because of strong relationships. He realized that success is not just about hard work, but also about smart work. This thought stayed in his mind deeply. By the end of the day, Leo sold all his bread again, but he noticed that his profit had not increased much compared to the effort he was putting in. This made him think seriously about the future. That night, he sat alone and reviewed everything in his mind. He asked himself, if I keep doing the same thing, will my life really change? The answer was clear. He needed to improve. A few days later, something unexpected happened. A new bakery opened in town. It was bigger, more modern, and offered a wider variety of products. People in the town became excited and started visiting the new bakery. Slowly, Leo noticed that his sales began to drop. Fewer people were coming to his stand, and some of his regular customers started going to the new place instead. At first, Leo felt worried. He thought, am I going to lose everything I built so far? Fear started entering his mind again. He began questioning his journey. But this time, something was different. Instead of breaking down completely, he tried to stay calm. He reminded himself that competition is a natural part of business and life. Nothing stays easy forever. Leo decided to visit the new bakery to understand why people preferred it. When he went there, he saw a clean environment, faster service, and attractive packaging. He did not feel discouraged. Instead, he started learning from it. He realized that he needed to improve his own service if he wanted to survive and grow. And when he returned home, Leo started thinking about changes he could make. He improved how he arranged his bread stand. He focused more on customer interaction. He started remembering the names of regular customers. He even began asking people what they liked and what they expected. Slowly, his approach started changing from just selling to building relationships, working. Even though his sales had gone down for a few days, Leo did not stop working. He continued showing up every day, even when things were not going well. This period was very important in his journey because it taught him patience and resilience. He understood that success is not a straight path. It is full of ups and downs. One evening, Leo had a moment of deep frustration. He sat quietly and thought about quitting. He felt tired, stressed, and uncertain about the future. But then he remembered his journey from the beginning. He remembered how he had nothing when he started. He remembered the rejection he faced and the small success he achieved. That reflection gave him strength again. He stood up and said to himself, if I survive this far, I cannot stop now. That moment became a turning point in his mindset. He decided not to compete with others, but to improve himself every day. By the end of this chapter, Leo was no longer just a beginner trying to sell bread. He was slowly becoming a thinker, a learner, and a problem solver. He had experienced success, failure, and competition, all in a short time. But most importantly, he had learned a powerful truth. Nothing is stable in life. Success must be maintained, and failure must be used as a lesson. And his journey was still far from over. Chapter 6. Leo had already learned many lessons from his journey, but life was not finished testing him yet. When he thought he was slowly finding stability, a much bigger challenge arrived. One evening, after finishing his work and returning home tired, he received shocking news. A fire had broken out near his small bakery setup area, and unfortunately, his entire small selling stand and remaining equipment were badly damaged. When Leo reached the place, he stood still for a moment, unable to believe what he was seeing. Everything he had built slowly over days was now destroyed. In a few hours, For a few seconds, Leo felt completely empty inside. His mind went silent. He looked at the burnt remains of his stand and felt a deep pain in his heart. Okay? He thought about all the effort, all the early mornings, all the rejection, and all the small victories he had earned. It all looked like it had disappeared in one moment. For the first time in his journey, he felt like giving up completely. He asked himself, why does this keep happening? Why should I continue when everything gets taken away? That night, Leo could not sleep. He kept thinking about the fire, the loss, and the uncertainty of his future. He felt like all his hard work had been wasted. But in the middle of his sadness, he remembered something very important. He remembered how far he had already come. He remembered the boy who once had no idea where to start, who was afraid to even talk to a bakery owner. He realized that even though his things were destroyed, his knowledge, experience, and strength were still with him. The next morning, when people in his town heard about the fire, many of them came forward to help him. Some offered small donations, some offered materials, and some even offered emotional support. This moment was very powerful for Leo. He realized that he was no longer just a stranger selling bread. He had become a part of the community. People had started respecting his hard work and dedication. Mr. Anderson also came to see him after hearing the news. He looked at Leo and said, "Life tests everyone, but only those who refuse to quit become stronger." These words had a deep impact on Leo. Instead of seeing the fire as the end, he started seeing it as another challenge in his journey, a challenge that he had to overcome, not avoid. With the help of the community and his own determination, Leo decided to rebuild everything from scratch. It was not easy. There were days when he felt tired and discouraged. There were moments when he questioned himself again. But this time, something inside him had changed. He was no longer the same boy who was scared of failure. He had already faced failure before, and now he knew he could survive it. Slowly, Leo started rebuilding his work. He improved his setup, made it more organized, and focused on better service. Instead of just selling bread, he started thinking like a real entrepreneur. He planned better, communicated better, and started treating every customer as important. His mindset had completely changed from just earning money to building something meaningful. Over time, people began noticing his improvement. His dedication, honesty, and consistency started bringing customers back. Some even preferred his service over bigger bakeries because they trusted him more. Leo understood something very important now. Trust is more valuable than size, and consistency is more powerful than shortcuts. Months passed, and Leo's small business slowly grew. What started as a simple bread-selling idea had now turned into a proper small bakery setup. He was no longer just surviving. he was building something real. King? People from nearby towns also started hearing about him. His name began spreading slowly. Not because of advertisements, but because of his story and hard work. Fickle. One day, Leo stood outside his improved bakery and looked around. He remembered everything clearly. The struggle, the rejection, the fear, the fire, and the rebuilding. Ciao. Toke. He realized that every painful moment had shaped him into who he was today. Without those struggles, he would never have reached this stage. He smiled quietly and said to himself, "Nothing is free. Everything has a price, and I have paid mine with hard work, patience, and persistence." But this time, those words did not feel heavy. They felt powerful. Leo's story became an example for many people in his town. He proved that failure is not the end, and setbacks are not permanent. What matters most is the decision to keep going, no matter what happens. His journey showed that success is not a single moment, but a long process filled with learning, struggle, and growth. In the end, Leo was not just a successful businessman. Kamak. He was a person who understood life deeply. He learned that nothing is truly free. Every dream requires effort. Every success requires sacrifice, and every achievement requires patience. And most importantly, he learned that the real price of success is never money. It is courage, consistency, and the refusal to give up